Ready.
Records. Okay.
Oh, we're set to go.
We're set to go, yeah.
Hi, thanks for joining me with Life and Times. My guest is Patrick Burke. Patrick, so nice to have you here.
Well, thanks, Mary. It's usually I'm behind the camera, so
Yeah, you are.
you know, but this time I'm in front of the camera.
In front of the camera this
Yeah.
time because
Yeah.
you know you've got a lot of information. But first of all, I want to know what brought you to Fernie.
Well, I guess the question would be what brought us out west. And, you know, like we were, when I finished my university and Jo Anne and I got married, we moved to Toronto, and I was working down there, and we were you know, like it was fine, everything was, it was city life and that, but, you know, we couldn't afford a home. So everyone's talking about affordable homes, housing these days, and back then, affordable housing was not possible either. You know, we were at, you had to have 30% down in 1984, 30% down to buy a house, and it was 18 to 21% interest.
Wow.
So, you know, we saw a little apartment, I think it was a two-bedroom apartment, it was 140,000, you know, which was, yeah, people say, well, that's normal price. Well, that was in 1984.
Yeah, that was a lot of money back
So you had to have $35,000 down,
Mm-hmm.
and then your payment was like $1,600 a month, you know, if you qualified. And so we said, well, let's see, you want to, so I came home one day with a ad for a job out in Tumble Ridge, and I said to Jo Anne, well, do you want to go for an adventure? So she said, sure. So I threw off a resume in the mail, and there was no email back then.
No.
It was just, we would call it snail mail.
Uh-huh.
So when it went up, we, you know, went to Tumble Ridge, and they phoned me and said, you know, we'll fly up for an interview. So they flew us, you know, like all the way up. I think they flew us to Edmonton, and then we took a car right to Tumble Ridge, which was, well, it was quite interesting, but
Yeah, a long trip.
we made it. And then you know, we came back to Toronto, and then they offered me a job.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so we uprooted. We were living down in Port Credit, Ontario, and right on the Lake Ontario, and then we moved up to Tumble Ridge, which, you know, was in the middle of nowhere.
And how long were you up there?
Up there about 2 years.
Oh yeah.
And then I saw a job down with Westar Mining, and then we came down for the interview. I remember we drove from there to Edmonton to fly down, and it was quite interesting because on the way down we got 3 flat tires.
Wow.
So 1 flat tire is not too bad.
But 3?
Two flat tires is not good, but 3 flat tires is, you're basically not very good at all. So. And we got stranded sort of on one of the reserves on the way down, and someone happened to come along, a good Samaritan, and take us to a tire shop. So we took our tires along with us and brought us back, and we put the tires on. We made it to Edmonton and made it to the interview.
And came to Fernie.
Yeah, and then you know, we didn't know about Fernie very much. One of the people that we knew up in Tumble Ridge, they said. You know, I said, well, what's Fernie? What's Squire of Fernie? I said, well, he said, well, Fernie is, he says, you know, just go, you'll never regret it. And you know, we never have. And we worked for Westar Mining till.
And what year was that?
That was in 1978.
1978.
Yeah, 78.
So you've seen lots of changes in Fernie.
Yeah, I've seen, when we came here, there was, I remember there was a big excitement. There was 1 building permit taken out. And I think it was to build Terry Sharp's house. And everyone was excited in town about this 1 building permit, you know. And we bought our first house down in the airport subdivision, now Mount View subdivision,
Mm-hmm.
and it was $40,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and we.
Well, the houses up at Ridgemont, though, were like $20,000 to $25,000, and that seemed a lot of money in the 70s.
Yeah, that seemed like a lot of money. So in Tumble Ridge, they had the mine housing, so you'd sell the house back to the mine, and we had our down payment. We bought our house down here, and yeah, there was so we lived in it to you know, to 1991, and at that time. It was a big house, you know, it was like 1,500 square feet, 2 floors, and 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and, you know, Jo Anne, she was we had this big argument about the house was too big, too much to clean.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, go find the house you want to live in. You know, I said, you know, we'll just go and sell this one and buy another one. So she, you know, she looked around, and I guess a friend told her about this old house down, you know, on 4th Street and 4th Avenue and 8th Street, and used to be a nurse's residence. And so she came in and looked at it, and she liked it, and you know, we made an offer on it, and we bought it. And it was quite dilapidated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was, our friends would come in and, you know, asked us if we really knew what we were doing when we bought it. You know, because we spent 2 years stripping paint, redoing floors, redecorating, and that, and before we even, and then the house was huge. So then, you know, Joanne couldn't get a job because there was really no employment in town. So I said to her, well, why don't you start a bed and breakfast? She said, well, I think I can do that. So she opens up the bed and breakfast, and we, 1992 December, I think. So, and then, so that's 29 years ago.
You've been doing that?
28 years ago, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
28, or something like that anyways.
Well,
Yeah.
that'll be her story, so I want to hear about you.
Yeah.
So, in the meantime, you were working for Westar?
Yeah, I was working for Westar in the engineering department and computers and that, and you know, they were, you know, Westar was struggling a lot. It was, I remember it would always be a good day when they could meet payday. You know, I don't think anyone really understood that up there more than in the engineering when they, you know, because the accounting part was right close, so they would be, you'd see all these nervous looks on people's faces. You approach payday, and then a big sigh of relief till the next payday. So it was, you know, we worked hard, and you know, it was I enjoyed it up there, and it's been a good move to for me.
So Westar went down,
Yeah.
and so that's when you decided to start your own business, your other business?
Well, at first, well, there's stories about that. When it went down, we had just bought our other house, you know, the nurse's residence, and we were just signing the final papers, and I remember they were talking about, no one ever thought it would go down.
Mm-hmm.
But the Friday, I remember Joanne said, get to the bank, sign those final papers off. So we did. We signed it off and everything like that, and everything was complete. Monday morning, everything had collapsed.
Wow.
And it was just like,
I remember that.
the bank actually even wanted to take away our loan. I said, well, we signed it, we give you the money, it's done. We got the papers, you signed it too.
Mm-hmm.
That was the Bank of Montreal. And so we almost lost it then, but Joanne was foresight enough to get it go down. I wanted to wait till Monday, but she didn't want to wait. Good thing.
It would have been too late.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, you know, like then there was a flurry of people that came in that wanted to buy it. I remember at one point there was Westar Mining wanted to buy it.
Yeah.
And they came in and they were going to hire everyone back and stuff like that. And then that just fell apart, and there was a whole bunch of other mining companies the same. And
Westar did end up buying Lime Creek.
yes, they did. Yeah.
Because my husband worked for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think they probably have been a pretty good company to work for. But,
Yeah, they were a great company to work
Yeah.
for.
yeah, but, and then, so then everyone was unemployed, and we were thinking, well, what do we do? So I applied for a job in Vancouver, and it was got it, and then at Vancouver General Hospital actually. So I worked there for 6 months.
Oh, so you took it.
Yeah, I took it, and then they had a layoff, and then they said that they originally said, well, I'll come back to Fernie, we'll hire you, and then by the time came back, the tech was hiring, but there was no jobs for me, so.
Well, it wasn't even tech back then, wasn't it? Wasn't it BC Coal?
No, tech, I think,
Was it
bought
Tech?
it. Tech bought it, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and they bought it, and so it's quite interesting, so. And they didn't hire a lot of the people
No,
back from
no, they sure didn't.
before, yeah. So it's just the way it is, I guess, in mining, so.
So you started your own business though?
Well,
Did you have Canscan all along?
no, what happened in Vancouver, so they were laying off at the Vancouver General Hospital, so, and then Jo Anne and I talked about, well, this was in 91, and then we decided, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'm going to make a stand in Fernie and see what happens.
Well, you still had your nurse's residence. So was that shut down while you were away?
No, it was just, Jo Anne was here. She
Oh,
was
she was
trying
still
to.
here.
We actually were right in the. It wasn't actually open yet,
Oh, okay.
and it was. She was just doing the final redecorating. We were getting, beds and sheets and all that sort of stuff. It was a very expensive time.
Oh, I'm sure.
So and then so finally, finally got it open, and then I started doing a bit of consulting around, and then I opened up, Canscan Imaging, Connect Computers, and like eventually got into, had a place down the highway, which is now the Curry Bowl, and we renovated it first, so, and then the Curry Bowl bought it from us. So actually, your previous interviewer, that was one of their homes.
Yeah, that was the home that they lived, that they were born in.
Yeah, small world.
And so, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So I ran that for, quite a few years. I think it was 78 or 79, and, it was...
But you still had it in 1998.
Yeah.
Because when
Yeah.
I organized the Festa Italiana,
Yeah.
you reproduced all those huge posters for me of Italian families.
Yeah, I remember that. And,
Yeah.
You came in.
That was 1998.
Printed all those out. Now they're a historical document.
I know, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was. So it was good there, but what happened was, and then I had internet cafes in there, and I sold, software in there and stuff, but, and computers. But what happened is around that time, you say, well, things change. Dell came in, and they sent mailing out to everyone, and they were selling computers and everything cheaper than I can buy it for. So I was like 20% more, 20-30% more, and we were only making like 10% on a computer and hardware, and have to maintain it and that, and just couldn't keep affording to be able to do that.
No, I can see that.
Yeah. One time I had two people I was working for me, so and that full time.
Yeah, I remember when you were really busy.
Yeah, and but the world moves on.
Yep. But then you got involved with extracurricular activities, so to speak.
Yeah.
One of them being the cemetery.
Yeah. Before that, it was
Excuse me.
the Arts Co-op.
Right, because were you not the person that started it?
Well, there was a group of us. There was about six or seven of us. We all met, and we wanted to start an arts co-op. And we thought, well, we could make this a go with all the artists and working in there and that. And so we decided to have a co-op.
So you were a founding member of the very successful arts co-op.
Yeah, it wasn't original like co-op actually. There's a story about that too. But we started in the store like just across from Mugshots in the same building. And that's where the first one was. And then we moved to
Menifees.
We moved to Menifees. So.
Oh, you need a break?
Right.
That's good, I can cough.
So I do need to just press
No,
again?
the red one.
The red one.
Yep. And then it'll go big. You see it big? The screen will go big. No?
It hasn't gone, it's just the same as it was.
Is it narrow or is it big?
What?
Oh. We're taping while we're,
Alright,
I'm the photographer. Oh, yeah, it's big. See, there we go. Now press that button there again and wait a second. Okay. We're ready to go again.
okay, 1, 2, 3. The red button.
Yeah, and it'll go smaller, right? Narrow?
Alright.
Yep.
Okay.
And so then you started in the mugshots building, and then
Yeah.
you went to the Minifees building,
Menifees building. And,
where it is now.
No, I don't think
Yeah,
it's...
yeah,
it's
that's the Minifees
what was
building.
it? We were in the Sears building, weren't we?
No, I think you're always in the Minifees building.
No.
No, we went
After
to-
you moved from the mugshots.
No, we moved from there to Sears building, because I
Yeah.
remember where landlord was Marcel LaBelle, and then he sold that
Oh,
building.
did you?
Yeah.
Did you go into there? That was
Yeah.
further down.
Yeah, and then we moved from there into the Minifees building, which is the final resting place for the...
Oh, so you went from mugshots
Yep.
to the Sears building, which was just down the street.
Yeah,
And then went to the Minifees building, where it still is now, located now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I had heard that you initiated the whole thing.
Well, I was part of a group. We all talked about it and we thought we can do this. And, you know, we all chipped in some money to get started and for rent and stuff. And then we started making things.
Uh-huh.
And
Who were the original people with you?
there was Millie Barnett.
Oh, yeah.
I think there was Elise Byrne
Oh.
and Beulah. I'm not sure if she was original.
Beulah Lindbergh?
Beulah Lindbergh, and then there was a few other people involved in. I can't remember. I'm not
Yeah,
good with names, but there's quite a few other. I think there was about 8 of us that started.
So most of them are still part of it.
Yes, most of them are,
Yeah.
with the exception of Millie Barnett and ourselves.
Yeah, because they moved out of town.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Jo Anne used to sew. She used to make sewing and different things, you know, because she was a seamstress years ago. And then I got into, you know, designing CNC software and I made carvings.
Yeah.
And I used to sell them there.
But you did beautiful Christmas decorations.
Yeah, did Christmas
to-
decorations.
yeah,
to
for
hang on
tree,
the trees
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And then get into three-dimensional put together Christmas decorations are quite nice.
Are you still doing things like that?
No, I sold the CNC machine, so I really don't do
Oh,
that
okay.
anymore. Yeah, and, we're too busy with other things.
Yeah.
And that, yeah.
So then, you're a member of the Elks
Yeah.
group. Are you also associated with other organizations?
Well, I'll forward a little bit from. We sold the building from that we were in it with the Canscan and that, and then we decided to rent actually downtown where the Fernie General Store was.
Oh, yeah.
I think I rented actually where the Sushi Wood is,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
then it flooded out, and then we moved to Fernie General Store, and then after that, you know, like then I got on council.
Yes.
Oh, before that, I was involved with the Healthcare Coalition.
Oh, right.
And
Before
I-
you got on council?
Yeah, and I worked with Barbara Cossack and yourself, you know, and then
Mary Menda.
Mary
and,
Mendick and many of the people.
and Louise Joel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we worked very hard to. We got membership of about 400 or 500 people, and we.
Ray Hughes, I remember.
Ray Hughes, yeah. Ted Wraith was
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
and you know, there's all the Fernieites basically were very, very concerned about and the priest at the Catholic Church, I forget his
Father Belozzo.
Father Belozzo, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was, you know, and we had we picketed the hospital, we picketed, and I remember we even
Remember the one organization, the one demonstration where Ray Hughes was dressed as the Grim Reaper in black with the big scythe, and there was a black hearse, and everybody marched down to the hospital and did a demonstration there.
I think that was the 80s, wasn't it? Oh no, that was the 90s, 90s or even around in the 90s.
Yeah, I think it was the 90s.
98, 99.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really something.
And we wanted to save our surgery.
Yeah,
and
we
our
wanted to
hospital.
keep our hospital and operating room open.
And I remember we wanted to block off the highway. So we couldn't do it, the only way we could do it legally was to the crosswalk across from Rotary Park.
Well, that's what I organized.
Yeah, you organized that
Yeah.
one. So we remember we would
Yeah.
push the button, one group would walk across,
Yeah.
and then the other group would walk back.
What was really funny is that I thought I would get maybe 10 people with those orange jackets and we would walk across the crosswalk.
Mm-hmm.
So word got around in town, and that day we ended up with over 250 people.
Yeah.
And Pepper Sterling helped me organize it, because I said to her, help me. And then Virginia Robinson, the doctor, came and she gave a speech. And anyway, we gathered at the Rotary Park, and that's where there was a button.
Yeah.
But all these people were there, and mothers with babies and strollers, and I remember we finally got everybody organized. We didn't have enough jackets, and we said, only the people with the jackets can cross. Well, people don't listen.
No, everyone went.
We pushed the button, stopped traffic, both sides.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the lineup was unbelievable, and we were there for over an hour.
Yep.
And then all the mothers with chariots crossed.
Yep.
And I recall CTV Newsnet at the time. I don't think it's on anymore like that, but it was called CTV Newsnet. They filmed it, and for 3 days, because I saw it, they kept showing the mothers with the chariots going across, and showing the traffic that had been backed up as far as the eye could see. And at one point, I remember the big truckers honked their horn because they wanted us to open up.
Yep.
But we didn't open up. We kept it closed for about an hour.
I think that
was really something.
I think the Healthcare Coalition in Fernie, we had a big effect on saving the surgery in the hospital.
I don't think I would ever do something that dangerous again, but it was very interesting, because I remember there were ministry people up at the Park Place watching it all, and we did save our operating room.
Yeah, where I remember.
That was, the coalition did such great work.
And I remember Sparwood lost theirs, and they just,
and so did Kimberly.
They just didn't say enough. And it's sad. And that was quite a struggle.
Yeah, it was. But it was great that the coalition was there, and there was so many people that were interested, and so many people were against, the closure of the OR, or even the closure of the hospital. So that was a good thing. Kudos to everybody who worked on that.
Well, back then it seemed like a real community. Like it was just, everyone had a community values and interests, and they were interested. It was exciting. People would do things.
It did seem as if it was a more caring community.
Yeah.
And also, a few months later, I recall that the people from the apartments by the hospital were being evicted. And I remember they came to City Hall, and I was a counselor, and they said, Mary, you got to help us, because by then people knew that I was always out there trying to do something. And so we organized, Andrea Horton from the Free Press and I organized another demonstration, and she got up with one of those big horns and gave a speech, and the Global came and videotaped us, and of course they didn't stop the eviction, but what it did do was that some of those people that were being evicted, that were vulnerable, ended up getting places in town. Like this gentleman gave this young woman who was having lots of problems his apartment, and he moved out and stayed with his friend, and he let her live there for a year until she found other accommodation, and Sparwood found accommodation for a lot of the people, so that helped too.
Yeah, it was a great caring community back then.
Yeah, it really was. You're so right.
Yeah, it's.
So what else were you involved with?
Well, then came along. Well, then I think I ran for city council.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and got on city council, and that was a lot of work. It was, like it was time consuming. It was, but I mean, it was very rewarding too. I remember we were together on
Yes,
council.
we were on council together.
Yeah.
And I always remember that you brought up that Fernie should have a Nordic Center. And you even had the spot that you thought would be good up on Castle Mountain, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, actually, we designed the place up by the park.
Ah.
That was right where they have it right now. We actually designed a building right on in 3 dimensions, and that's where we would like to have had it back then. That was sort of our dream, and that. And,
Well, I remember you at every meeting you found an opportunity to bring that up.
yeah,
And the mayor of the day kept saying,
yeah.
And you brought it up so many times that he finally said to you, okay, if you want to do it, go ahead.
No. It was interesting too, because that's why I sort of felt Fernie needed in that. And, I basically talked people like Barbara Cossack and Lynn Cossack into it. And then there was Cheryl Stomps and Doug Wormer and then Becky Scott. We got her involved, and Bill Armstrong. And
tell us who Becky
Zero.
Scott was for people
Well,
who don't
Becky
know her.
Scott, she was a world Olympian cross-country skier out of Canmore, I believe.
Yeah.
And so that was it was great. We didn't know anything about cross-country skiing,
The others,
but
some of the others did.
Yeah, and I remember the first year we did a mail out to the community and to buy memberships, $10 memberships. And we got 400 memberships back. So I thought, oh, we got to do this now.
Wow. So you knew you had interest.
Yeah, and we had donations from quite a few of the hotels, and like Best Western, Park Place, and a lot of the hotels, other donations came. But we didn't have enough. We didn't have anything from the city, but that was okay. We were applying for grants, and then but then we were short. We were still short $25,000 for the snowmobile. And we ordered in the grooming equipment. We managed to get the money to order that in. But we had no snowmobile, so the group of us looked at each other and I said, I guess we're going to be buying a snowmobile for Christmas, And we were actually, the group there was willing to invest, to buy it.
Where did you start first?
Well,
Where it's still now?
We started at the golf course.
Oh, at the golf course?
Yeah, we started at the golf course, and then Cheryl Stomps, she basically, I think, she talked to a whole bunch of different landowners, like the golf course, Timback. She talked to the Island Lake Lodge, and got agreements that they could do that. The ski hill, and ski already had some Nordic trails, but we wanted to create a lot more. And the group, Barbara did a lot of the society work on it. Barbara Cossack and Lynn Cossack did a lot of all the society work, organizing and that. So we built a website, and then it's a funny thing because we still didn't have a snowmobile. So what were we going to do? So we applied for a grant with the lottery, and all of our other grants had fallen through. So I phoned up the person in charge of the lottery. I said, look, we got 400 members. We don't have a snowmobile, and you're our last chance. I said, otherwise we're going to have to just try and get everyone their $10 back. And in 2 weeks, they sent us a check for $25,000.
Oh, so you got your snowmobile.
And we got it. We actually had ordered a snowmobile. Yeah, well,
hey, working on faith.
A real naive group, I'll tell you.
Hey,
So
sometimes that's good.
we ordered the snowmobile before we even had the money to pay for it, I believe. Wasn't that right, Barbara? And so then a check for $25,000 come in, and we were able to pay for the snowmobile, and we paid for all the equipment. We got it ordered in, and I think we started in December at the golf course for our first grooming. And some of the original groomers are still grooming it today.
And so now they've got a hut, and it's they've got a permanent place. Oh, okay.
Okay,
So press the
you
red.
have 30 seconds.
Press the red button. You can stop it now. Okay, it goes big. Press it again. could go small.
Alright,
Okay.
5, 6, 7.
Yep, it's going. I'll trim that out
Okay.
later. Yeah.
They're coming any minute, the men
Oh,
for the
okay.
fire, okay.
Okay. Well, that's so that was and you know it was a great success, and
Well, now they have like 800 or 900 members.
yeah.
So you started something that went really big.
I remember how annoyed everyone in city council was when I used to
Hey,
talk about it.
they just didn't realize that you had connections.
Well, you know, I see there's people of vision in town. You know, I may be vision on that, but there's been people with vision with trails, you know, and they would start out, I know the Trails Alliance, they started out and they never got one dime from the city
No.
till after they got it,
Yeah.
till it became quite huge.
And some of them started like 35 years ago with,
Yeah.
they had the vision, they knew
Mhm.
that this would be a good thing for Fernie, not just recreationally, but economically.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I think, you know, it's great what people have done. And that's actually, I think, what made Fernie special, is the people that came together and did. They might not have been in your group or the next group, but they'd be in some group, and there'd be like different things happening at Fernie,
Yeah,
which was wonderful.
yeah, always something going on.
Always something going
But
on.
I want to talk a little bit, because we still have the other camera running.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to talk about the coalition, the other heritage cemetery group, because you and Len and Barb did a lot of work with that.
Yeah, we started on that, I believe, in 2000 and...
9.
It was before then, I think it was 2006. I've got records from there.
Mm-hmm.
And we started, and you know, I think there was a person, I think Amy brought it up at the city council.
Well, he was always coming to council because,
Yeah.
you know, he would go there on Father's Day,
Yeah,
and the cemeteries looked so not good.
yeah.
And so he would come and complain.
And so Barbara and Len and myself, we went up to the cemetery, and it looked pretty sad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it looked, you know, there was stones that were broken in half and on the ground. There was, you know, there was bushes covering up many of the stones. They were all covered up, overburdened, whatever.
Well, such overgrowth
Yeah.
over the cement that the cement had been cracked and thrown down.
Yeah, and that was, you know, actually we were all very sad about that. And we thought, well, we're going to do something about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so Lynn and Barbara, you know, they said, well, maybe we can get a grant to help do something. And you know, like they managed to get a little bit of a grant, and we started working on it. And Lynn would be up there, and he was like he got this glue that he could glue stones back together. So he'd be up there and putting the stone back together and cleaning it and that. And who was he working with? He was working with, there was
Bill Fleming.
Bill Fleming.
Oh,
who-
right,
who
Bill
since-
Fleming, because Bill passed away.
Bill passed away, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was working up there, and they were cleaning the stones and
Mm-hmm.
and that, and I had worked with him on the. I was working on the technology
Yeah.
side and the mapping and that,
Right.
and records and that. We were, you know, Lynn was working with me on that, and Barbara, and so we would go up and we would, you know, we actually we would get the records together, and then we'd look them up on the we'd look them up on the death records of the province, match them up for the date of death, get the city records as much as we could get, match them up, any records we could find,
Lots
the
of research.
churches. Oh yeah, we got the churches records, all the churches records, we got everyone's, just trying to put all the cookie crumbs back together into a, you know, as well say, a full cookie. And you know, boy, I don't think any one of us imagined how big the project was. You know, because from 2006 to now,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's almost 14 years later.
But look what you guys achieved.
Well, yeah, and no one wanted to take it on. And so...
I mean, physically, the cemetery looks 100% better.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we
And then there's all that information that you have online.
well, when we started getting the records together, we found some very interesting things happening. A lot of the families then found their relatives, and all of a sudden you'd see a stone appear where there was none. You'd see, and ever since that time, people have been asking, well, how do I get a stone on my great-grandfather? How do I do this? And we since we got all the records together, and believe me, we're still piecing the records together, because it's not that no one kept good records, it's just everyone kept records, but no one put it together.
Yeah, exactly. So you were able to get them all, and
and some of the crumbs came back as families that knew things. So that worked out really good.
So now there's a website that people can go to?
Yeah, FernieHeritageCemetery.com or FernieCemetery.com, and we have maps on there. We've mapped out the whole cemetery. We've, one of the grants that Barbara got, we were able to get a GPS camera, and we took pictures of every stone in the old cemetery, and we GPSed them. Meaning someone can go online and they can get the location within about 5-6 feet of their family's stone, so they can find them, where they are in the cemetery, which is really nice, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
I know a few years ago I had a couple from Illinois contact me wanting to know about their grandfather, and they were able to find the cross in the old cemetery. It is a cross, and they were shocked because there was a rosary hanging on one side, and it looked almost as if was stuck there. I guess it'd been there for so many years, but nobody had removed that rosary bead. And she came 3 times to see it, and each time she just could not get over that nobody was removing that. I mean, people were really respectful that they saw these rosary beads on this cross on the arm, and they never moved it.
I think there was some period of time that there was some vandalism in the cemetery, because a lot of the stones that Lynn glued back together again look like they've been broken.
Well, there was a time when they allowed vehicles to go up that road, from the Legion Cemetery site. There's a road there, which really isn't a road anymore because they've let it grow over. So people used to go in there. If I remember correctly, hearing as a teenager that kids would go up there and then they would tear around. And so I think this is how some of the damage got done.
Yeah,
there wasn't the respect shown.
Well, there certainly is today, and it's some amazing history up there, and like how you can always, if you know where you've been in the past, you know where you're going in the future.
Oh, I agree.
And but you can go up there and you can see how people, the wars. You can see the Spanish flu. You can see the fires. You can see the mine accidents. You can see that history. It's just laid out in front of you up there, which is quite interesting when we got into it. And it's been a very rewarding, great project for us, for Lynn and for Barbara and myself, and but.
Well, a great legacy, especially since Lynn's passed on, but such a great legacy to say that he initiated with others something to beautify, and to make people whose family members are there realize that they're being respected.
Well,
the resting place of a family member is respected.
And I think we got to it at a time when the records were starting to disappear, and we actually saved them. And I think it's a great legacy for Fernie to have that. Most communities don't have. Their cemeteries just sort of go back into the land. And
if somebody wants to access the data, can you tell us how to find it?
Yeah, just all you have to do is just go on the website, and if they want to, if they have family, they can. There's three. I believe there's three different spreadsheets that they can go. One is sorted by last name. The next one is sorted by date of death, and the third one is sorted by row and column and section, row and column number in the plot number in the cemetery. So they have those three documents that they can use, and then from that they can find out which section their family member is in. And if they wish to check for a stone, they can just go into that section and go down to their family, see if it's all in alphabetical order, go down and see if their family member has a stone that we would be able to record, and they can see the stone, they can see what shape it is in, and that, which is, if they're living in England, they can see all that.
Yeah.
And if the stones, and if we don't have a stone photograph, that means there's not one there. There isn't one there. So then we hope, our hope is that the family members and great grandchildren of the person would, say, hey, look, maybe we'll.
So is this something? Is this a project that you'd like to keep seeing going?
Oh, most definitely. We'd like to see it going, far into the future. It's, like if we would like to see, like there's 2,000 stones missing up there. There's markers, and we'd like to see everyone with some sort of marker that says this is where this person's final resting place is. There's a mine disaster up there. That's Lynn and I talked about it quite a bit when Lynn was alive, Lynn Cossack, and it's a whole field. And when we first started, we could see the mounds where the bodies were, but now it's just gone. It's just about level again, and there's hardly any markers. And we would like to see some sort of marker up there for that large mine is right at the cemetery, because it's, if you know that it's there, it's just a really eerie thing to see. You see this field and there's nothing in it. Yeah. And knowing but you don't know that all those people passed away there and are lying there. So, but although, I think you did a project at the city hall with the miners,
the
and
miners' walk,
you have bricks and stuff.
Yeah, there was 6 of us on our committee as well, but I coordinated it, and it was a year-long project. And and I decided that it would be good if we could put the names on the bricks of all the people that were killed in the 1902 disaster at Coal Creek. Yeah. And so we have all those names there, and then the opportunity was given to people in town to buy a brick with their own names. They didn't have to be dead, or they could do it for themselves, they could do it for family members. So I think we have about 600 names.
But there's nothing replaces being able to, silently, peacefully stand right where your family member lies.
Exactly, and that.
Yeah, and that's
there. Yeah.
That's where, like I would lay flowers, or even though I know that they're not going to survive, but I would at least say do that, and it means something. It's mainly to the living.
Oh, absolutely, it's for the living, but it's still respect for for the dead, for the one that's gone, that the living is showing care,
and that
so that you're not just gone and forgotten.
And the harsh life that they had back then.
Okay. A few more seconds is all.
Okay, you can stop it. When we stop, you just. Okay. Did you want to start it again?
Okay.
How's the other one? Does it say how many more minutes?
We've got 17 minutes left.
So you can start that one again. Oh, that's fine. Just this one. You can just. Recording?
Yeah.
Okay. So there we go.
Yeah, they had that ugly wire fence around, and finally the city of Fernie decided that we would put some nice gates on there. And then on my own, I said, listen, we need to be respectful of the entrance to the Legion part, because that's where our veterans are. Not that they're more important than the others, but it just, having that dilapidated wire fence was just, and it was just so ugly. And so I have to thank the Director of Leisure Services, who was there at the time. Oh my goodness, can't think of his name right now, but I spoke with him and I said, can you make that happen? And he goes, Mayor, I will make it happen. And he did. He took part of his budget money and he put a smaller gate, and just to mimic the big one up at the main entrance, and stone sides, a nice wrought iron fence, and flower pots on the side, because I love flowers. So I said, you got to put flowers everywhere. And also I had them put benches up there for people to sit on so that they could sit. Otherwise you'd go up there and you have to stand.
Oh, they're beautiful.
And, my stepmother would go and then she'd be so exhausted and she couldn't sit anywhere. And so at least now when she goes, she can sit on the bench, because there's about 7 or 8 benches now and strategically placed.
It's funny, when you think of the veterans, if they didn't do what they did, our lives would be totally different today. I mean, especially in the Second World War, you can just imagine the difference of what would have happened, and it was. I can't fathom today something like that happening. If the generation that would have to go, if they would rise and they would go, I really don't think they would. I think they probably would, and then you would just end up with changed history that would not be very wonderful. So, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they would rise to the call.
Well, I suppose if you're forced, then you have to.
Well, it was a very different time then. I think, I can't imagine what was going through people's minds. And both Joanne's father and my father served in the Second World War.
As did mine.
And so it's quite a legacy for them to have done that.
And that's why I think you need to respect, the people that are buried up there.
And the history, because, the miners that mine coal in dangerous situations, you have to have a lot of, because that's what brought us to here. We basically are at this point because of them, because of all that history. A lot of the newer generations, they just take that for granted, or some of them even have a disdain when they talk about the boomers, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is sort of sad.
It really is interesting that the children of the boomers, who have been given every opportunity and have been given every material thing that they could possibly want, are the ones that are the least understanding and respectful. But that's because they've been given so much.
Well, I think your generation came from, like I hear you talking about, came from a room with one light bulb.
Yes.
And
no running water. No amenities. Nothing. I mean, there was a fireplace that my mother used for heat and for cooking. So it was pretty primitive.
And that's why it's so important for the past to be remembered and passed down, just so that people don't realize, just so that people can realize that they're where they are today came from where we were. From the times that we were in.
And I agree with you, and think of how some of the younger generation keeps running down the boomers, as they call them, people that were born from 1945 to, I think they said 1962. Anyway, they keep blaming that generation for the bad things that are happening in the world. Like, they blame us for climate change. They blame us for the fact that they believe that the world is, is not being taken care of. But what they're forgetting is that this generation is also the one that has given them all of these things that they're enjoying so much, you know, like all their technology and, you know, everything that that makes life easy for them.
Well, 20 years ago, I kind of remember a plastic water bottle, you know, or 30 years
Exactly.
ago, I don't remember. We would have a thermos.
Oh yeah, totally.
Thermos and that.
And maybe some of the things that were brought forward aren't so great, but
Yeah.
there's also all the good things, like
there's
you know, the telephones, the
Yeah.
you know, cell phones,
The
and
medical advancements.
yeah, medical advancements, just amazing. And you know, I think of you know, the dialysis unit that's in Sparwood. I remember initiating that and working to make that happen because my daughter was on dialysis, and she never got to use it, but I can't tell you how many people from Fernie have used it, and that could never have happened 50 years ago.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
they
for
wouldn't have
sure.
had, you know, there's so many medical advancement.
Yeah.
I think in another 10 years,
And-
they'll have cloned,
Oh, yeah.
you know, hearts and different organs, so that, and limbs even, so.
On another topic, I remember one thing we were involved with was saving the old drill.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, do you remember? I recall the manager and of the chamber, and also the president of the Chamber of Commerce coming to City Hall and saying, "We want that gone."
Yeah.
And I thought, what?
The Academy
No.
#1. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you came on. I put together a group of people, and there was a whole bunch of us, a bunch of men, and me. I think I was the only woman on that group, and you took out a petition
No, it's
to
bad.
save the derrick,
Yeah.
and
Got 600 names on it.
yeah, you had lots of names on it, and we formed that society, and the city said, "All right, you guys take it over." And the society's still going.
They've
And
done an
Alex
amazing
Miller,
job,
you
yeah.
brought in Alex Miller, and
Yeah.
Alex has been so terrific.
Yeah.
He still is the one that goes over there and makes sure that the lights are on and things are running smooth and everything is. And you know, I was the one that always made sure that we had grants so that we could make some changes, and we've been able to beautify that spot.
Yeah.
But what's really amazing, Patrick, and thanks for bringing it up, when
Oh.
the
I have a battery flashing here.
Okay, just press the little button and I'll change the battery. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Maybe that's the man that's coming for the
Okay.
bride.
we were talking,
Oh, we were talking about the chamber, the Akamena #1.
oh yes,
yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
and the work that was done to preserve it, and because the wood structure is a copy, but the actual working pieces, all the metal pieces, those are all from the Akamena #1 and 2, the original ones that were down at the South Country.
Yeah, I remember discussing that on city council, and some of the people, I remember Randall, okay, I'm not sure if I should say this, he sort of thought that because we didn't have the original timbers that it discredited it, but in actuality, from when they moved from drill site to drill site, they put new timbers on.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really the metal parts that was really the archaeological.
That were the ones that count, and we have all the original parts, all of them, and it's amazing because if you go down to the areas where there are a few bits and pieces that are left over, it's the wood pieces that are still there. Yeah.
And I believe that drilled the first oil well in Alberta, actually down near Waterton, and it drilled down in the Flathead for many years, and one of the first oil wells in BC.
Oh yeah, the Akamena. And
Yeah.
this one in Fernie is the only one standing in British Columbia. There is no other one in British Columbia. There's many in Alberta,
Yeah.
many, but not in BC. So if you recall, when there was that terrible accident, snowmobile accident, where 8 young men were
I
killed,
remember that. That was horrible.
that the marshalling point for everybody, all the search and rescue people that came from all over, they brought in helicopters. That became the marshalling point, and everybody knew where to go because of the rig.
Yeah.
That became the iconic place for that marshalling point.
Yeah.
And so now, thankfully, people are no longer saying, hey, pull it down. Although for a long time afterwards, there was a group that kept saying that they wanted it moved from there. And one of the biggest reasons they gave was that Fernie is mining, it's coal, it's not oil. And I would say, honestly, coal, oil, gas is not unrelated.
Yeah.
It is all in the family.
Well, I think it's a wonderful icon for the area. It's a wonderful artifact for
Yeah.
the area. It's just, and I do remember that day that those 8 people died, and there was so much snow, and, I remember, I think I tried cross-country skiing that day up Coal Creek, and you could hear the mountains groaning. You could tell it was so dangerous.
Oh yeah.
But, I recall that many of the people that did die were actually trying to save other people that got caught.
Yeah,
So-
8 of them, 8 young men.
Yeah, so it was just...
It's a terrible, terrible tragedy in this valley.
Yeah, a horrible day. And just, like even when these days when people go out snowmobiling, I warn them about that and tell them just be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've had our tragedies.
Yes, we
in,
have.
Fernie
And thank you so much for
Yeah.
your help being on the committee and putting out that. And let's talk a little bit about talking about petitions. What you're just doing now.
Well,
Come on, that's important.
I guess I never stop. So my latest one is it's basically trying to get this, it's with a project the city did on our street on 4th Avenue. I've snowblowed and cleaned it and everything like that for almost 30 years, and it has been great. It was a wonderful, wonderful street. Well, it was paved from sidewalk to sidewalk. The drainage was pretty good. This year they came along and they ripped it all up, and then they dug it down about 2 feet, and then they just put a small patch of pavement in the middle and put gravel on both sides, and moved the street narrow about 8 feet, and they just left it. And now, when the rains start coming, it's just horrible. It's just we have 2 rivers up each side of the street, and where we used to be able to sort of help the water get to the gutter and everything like that. We can't do that anymore because I'm not going to take my snowblower into the gravel and spew it all over my lawn. So now we've got this big mess. And actually, I was looking out there yesterday, and now it's all turned to ice. Parts of it are turned to ice, and we've had that road for 30 years. It was good. There was nothing wrong with it, not even a pothole. And now it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's just ruined.
The city fathers built Fernie because we were in a mostly flat area with beautiful wide roads.
Yeah.
That
They did a wonderful job.
yeah, they really did. And so the city, one by one, is changing the standard of all the roads, and there's no one set standard. It seems like every road is being done in a different manner, and so it's.
Yeah.
I really think that that's changing the face of physical Fernie, and not for the better. But that's my own personal opinion.
I mean, our road is so narrow that now the people that are biking down our road, which Fraser Fernie is supposed to be a biking town, now they get pushed off onto the gravel, and it's dangerous. The ladies with carriages, they have to go down the middle of the road, with baby carriages. It's just, I think you're right, Mary. The forefathers actually were very good.
Oh, totally.
And, I've tried to, like, basically they were very good. The structure was good. The structural road was excellent. As good as any you see anywhere.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to do anything like that. They could have just paved over it, but it didn't actually even need that. It probably would have lasted for 20 years just without that. So now I have a petition out asking the city of people, Fernie, to support this, for them to try and get some standards. Now I believe you tried to get some standards.
I tried to get some standards to the roads, but
they were fought down by.
Hopefully the new council will consider that.
Yeah.
But Patrick, I really want to thank you for talking to me and telling me about what you've done and what you're doing. It's really good work, and I want to thank you.
Oh, and one last plug is for this project here. It'll be going online on ourfernie.ca.
Yes.
And we'll have all these videos, thanks to yourself, from 20 years ago. And we'll have a lot of time capsules and pictures and that. And that'll be coming out in the new year.
And also maybe you could give out the address for the cemetery for people that are watching this and want to go on there again.
Yeah, it's you can go by typing in ferniecemetery.com or fernieheritagecemetery.com.
Okay. Well, thank you, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Okay. Thanks, Mary.
No, thank you, Patrick.
It was,
Well, I thought we might as well because
I don't know how well I did, but we'll see.